Step into the darkness where reality blurs and nightmares come alive. I had been driving for hours, the desolate road stretching out before me like a ribbon of asphalt cutting through the darkness. The only sound was the hum of the engine and the occasional rustle of wind through the trees that lined the roadside. It was the kind of lonely stretch of highway where you half expected to see tumbleweeds rolling across the pavement, but tonight, there was something else in the air, a sense of unease that seemed to hang heavy like a shroud. As I rounded a bend, I saw her, a figure standing by the side of the road, her form illuminated by the pale glow of my headlights. I hesitated for a moment, my foot hovering over the brake pedal, before finally deciding to pull over. It was late, and she looked like she could use a ride. "Need a lift?" I called out as I rolled down the window, the words sounding strangely hollow in the stillness of the night. She nodded, her face hidden beneath the shadow of her hood. Without a word, she climbed into the passenger seat, her movements silent and graceful, like a wraith gliding through the darkness. As we drove, I tried to make conversation, but she remained silent, her gaze fixed on the road ahead. It was unnerving, the way she seemed to stare straight ahead, as if she were seeing something that I couldn't. After what felt like hours of driving in silence, I finally couldn't take it anymore. "So, where are you headed?" I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. She turned to me then, her eyes piercing in the dim light of the car. "Home," she said, her voice soft and ethereal. "I just want to go home." I didn't press her for more details. There was something about her that made me uneasy, something that whispered of secrets and shadows hidden just beneath the surface. As we continued on our journey, the road seemed to stretch on endlessly, the landscape outside the window blurring into a monotonous blur of darkness. It was like we were caught in some kind of twisted loop, driving endlessly into the night with no end in sight. And then, suddenly, she spoke again. "Turn here," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I glanced at her, confused. "Turn where?" But she didn't answer, just pointed down a narrow dirt road that branched off from the main highway. Against my better judgment, I turned, the car's headlights cutting through the darkness as we plunged into the unknown. The road twisted and turned, leading us deeper into the heart of the forest. The trees loomed overhead like silent sentinels, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers grasping for something unseen. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the road ended, coming to an abrupt stop in front of a dilapidated old house. It was a relic from another time, its windows boarded up and its paint peeling in long, jagged strips. I turned to her, my heart pounding in my chest. "Why did you bring me here?" I demanded, my voice trembling with fear. But she didn't answer, just opened the car door and stepped out into the night. I watched in horror as she disappeared into the darkness, her form swallowed up by the shadows. For a moment, I considered following her, but something held me back, a primal instinct that screamed at me to stay in the safety of the car. And then, from the depths of the forest, I heard it, a low, keening wail that sent chills down my spine. It was the sound of something inhuman, something ancient and hungry, lurking just beyond the edge of my vision. With a surge of adrenaline, I slammed my foot down on the gas pedal, the car lurching forward as I tore away from the abandoned house and back onto the main road. But even as I drove, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was following me, something that wanted me to join it in the darkness. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, I finally reached the safety of civilization, my heart pounding in my chest and my hands shaking with fear. But even as I stepped out of the car and into the light of day, I knew that I would never forget the phantom hitchhiker that had crossed my path, a ghostly reminder of the dangers that lurk in the shadows of the night.